Has the Republican Party been completely captured by billionaire oligarchs and Donald Trump, who, by the way, is a billionaire oligarch? Or is there still some hope? We'll check it out. Ring the bell. Don't forget to comment. And please subscribe to our channel. And meanwhile, we now have a lawless president and a lawless Republican Party. I mean, it looks to me like the coup is complete on the Republican side. The takeover of the Republican Party by basically organized crime. By a man who has spent his life as a grifter and a criminal, a man who pleaded guilty to committing fraud against thousands of college students with his Trump so-called university, paid a $25 million fine after admitting, yeah, I'm a criminal, I committed fraud. Just like Rick Scott did down in Florida with the largest Medicare fraud in the history of that state. In fact, the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the country. And now Trump wants to put him in charge of health care policy. Right? We've got a criminal in the White House. And people aren't willing to call him that, but that's what he is. And now he is advising other people to break the law. Donald Trump said to Border Patrol agents a couple days ago, ignore the judges. That's a crime. Right? Encouraging other people to commit crimes or to ignore the law is itself a crime. I guarantee you if Bill Clinton had done that, if Barack Obama had done that, they would have been impeached in a nanosecond. Here we've got a guy, so is the coup complete on the Republican side? I mean, they pushed out Jeff Flake and Bob Corker, a couple of Republicans who said, hey, wait a minute, I'm not sure I want to go along with this criminal in the White House. And now you've got the Attorney General, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States saying, my job isn't to defend the American public or do what's best for the United States. My job is to do what Donald Trump tells me to do. That is apparently, now he's pushing out Kristen Nielsen because he ordered her to break the law and she said, no, I'm not going to do that. Some small shred of credit for her, I suppose, is in order here. He wants to get rid of the head of the Secret Service, apparently because after a Chinese spy showed up at Mar-a-Lago and got in, the Secret Service said, well, our job is to protect the president. It's not to protect Mar-a-Lago. Don't pin this on us. Oh, fire the director of the Secret Service. I mean, is this coup complete? Is the Republican Party completely under the sway of out-of-control CEOs and a criminal president? He tells cops, rough up people. Remember this? This was like a year or two ago. Says to police officer, when you're putting somebody in the car there, you put your hand on their head so that they don't get injured on the car frame. Don't do that anymore. Just rough them up a little. Right? That's a crime. This is the President of the United States telling police officers to commit crimes. He's refusing to release his tax returns. We're going to get into that with Julio in an hour. He's destroying the environment. He put an oil lobbyist in charge of the EPA. He put a coal lobbyist in charge of Interior, the part of our government that protects all of our public lands, many of which have coal in them. Is the coup complete? And if so, what can we do about it? He's destroying our environment and our government by doing this. He's excusing Saudis and other dictators from crimes against American residents like Jamal Khashoggi. I mean, it turns out that a week before Khashoggi showed up at the Saudi embassy in Turkey, I believe it was in Ankara, a week before he showed up at that Saudi consulate, they hired some local guys to come in and build a high-temperature brick oven to cremate the remains of his body after they chopped it up with a bone saw. And then they smuggled the ashes out of the country back to Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is the reporting from the Washington Post. And Trump is like, oh, that's cool. We got no problem with that. And then Mohammed bin Salman, the guy running Saudi Arabia right now, arrests a bunch of women who had been lobbying for the right to drive in Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're not even lobbying for the right to show their legs. They're just lobbying for the right to drive. And he arrests them. And then he goes out and arrests 14 of their supporters, 2 of whom are U.S. citizens. There are U.S. citizens right now sitting in Saudi jails in all probability being tortured. And Donald Trump is like, that's fine with me. What happened to the outrage? He was negotiating a Trump hotel in Moscow while he was running for the presidency. And the Russians, among others, were helping him get elected. And Bill Barr doesn't think that we should see the report on this? Oh, no. It's we've got to make sure that third parties who are not indicted, that people who are not the direct subjects of indictment, are protected from embarrassment, says Bill Barr. And who would that be? Well, anybody who's not indicted. Well, what about the president? Well, our policy is not to indict the president. So he'll be one of those people who we have to be sure his reputation isn't hurt. So we've got to redact as much as possible about Trump from this report. Do you get this? Do you get where this is going? I mean, this is how crazy and sick and twisted it has become now that the Republican Party has been completely taken over by a criminal in the White House, by a man who regularly defies the law, broke all kinds of tax laws. I mean, this was laid out in the New York Times a year ago. Taking money from his father's estate in ways that were illegal. I mean, it's mind-boggling.